Good morning. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, everybody. How's everybody doing? So, let's keep going with our military analogy as to how they do what they do. So, they break you down, then they start out with the little things and little things become big things, right? So they start out with your hair, they start out with your dress. They hit you with incredibly high standards, and then it's the incantations, and every day you're surrounded in this atmosphere. So, what else can we learn from that whole series of training? Because it obviously works. It works almost every time, and it works across the board. It doesn't matter who you are, or your religion, or your background, or your race, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So, the other thing that we can learn is the power of immersion. That if you really want to learn something, immerse yourself in it. If you want to learn a language, go to a country that speaks that language and just live there. And it won't be long and you're going to be able to speak a good portion of that language too. You'll learn it a lot quicker than Rosetta Stone or anything else because of immersion. I'm crewing a Tony Robbins event virtually this coming week, and I'm a believer in seminars of all types because of the power of immersion. I heard one person say, one of my first seminars that I went to for law, a very, very, very successful lawyer got up, and he was a very humble guy, and he said, the difference between a good lawyer and a great lawyer is the great lawyer gets out of town. And what he meant by that is they go to seminars and they understand the power of immersion, where you go and for a couple of days, you just focus on this one thing. So that's the other thing that the military does, is they put you in this intense immersion setting, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, where everybody there is doing the same thing and everybody there is focused on only one thing, becoming the best military person that they can. And everybody there is living by this code and using the same language and living by the same physical standards. And in that respect, then, in 6, 8, 12 weeks, they completely turn you into a different person. I mean, when they spit you out at the end of basic, you are no longer the person that you were when you showed up, and that never goes away. When they do the real basic training, the officer's basic training is different, but when they do the real basic training, that never goes away. And they utilize this with kids in prison. They did these programs called boot camp, where they did the exact same approach for young kids, first offenders, for nonviolent cases, drug cases, things like that. They sent them to boot camp, and it had a very, very, very high success rate, especially when it first started. Then it had to kind of lessen itself a little bit, and it still has a success rate, but not like it did. But the reason that it had a success rate was because of the power of immersion. So the next thing to learn is, if you want to really get something, immerse yourself in it, whatever that may be. But if you take a period of time, and remember, your number one investment is in you. If you take a period of time and just focus on one thing for yourself, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your health, whether it's goals, whether it's something to do with your business, that is always a good thing. I typically am involved in 3 or 4 seminars a year. When we did our first shutdown in the spring, I watched video after video after video on trials. I did there's this university that you can do, the Trial School University. I did all of them for a period of time while I was doing this shutdown. I did a whole nursing home thing, and I just immersed myself in that stuff. And as a result, I have a lot more information than I did before it all started. I utilized the time to do something. So the other thing to learn is the power of immersion. Then, how do they get Marines to do what they do? Marines are expected to be the first ones that go and fight. Okay, well, how do they get them to do that? Well, they make them part of something bigger than themselves. So the Marine Corps just had its birthday. It was around before the United States was around. And if you listen to, one of the guys, one of my buddies, Austin Haynes, posted yesterday that his dad couldn't go see Full Metal Jacket because it hit too close to home. That shows you how accurate the movie is in terms of the training. And one of the things that they say in the speech at the end is, once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. You're part of a brotherhood. So they make you part of a group. You're part of a brotherhood. And the brotherhood never goes away. It was around before the United States was around, and it will be around after the United States is gone. They say this. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the Joint Chiefs, took a press conference yesterday, was asked about the peaceful transition of power, and he said, this is the only military that takes an oath to a constitution. It doesn't take an oath to a leader, doesn't take an oath to a president, doesn't take an oath to a dictator, his words. Doesn't even take an oath to a country. It takes an oath to a constitution. So the Marine Corps makes you feel like you're part of something bigger that's going to live on. And then he flat out says, some Marines die. That's what Marines do. We wonder, how do the Japanese get their kamikaze bombers to go fly their planes into ships? Or how did Osama bin Laden get his people to fly the planes into the Twin Towers during 9/11? Well, do we allow Marines to question whether or not they're going to go into some battle that in a place that they've never even heard of and die? Absolutely not. We do the same thing. We do the same thing in terms of training them. All militaries do. You teach them that they're part of a brotherhood. The brotherhood's going to live on even if they die. You teach them that they're part of something bigger, even bigger than their country. And you teach them that this will live on, and this is what Marines do. Marines die. So this is part of what you're now joining up for. How can we use that? When you see yourself in the context of something bigger, it's easier to motivate yourself to do things. Google figured this out with their employees. Google made it so that a percentage of what their employees were paid for was personal time where they worked on anything they wanted to work on, using all of the resources that Google had, and they could pool themselves together. That's how Google Maps happened. Google Earth and Google Maps happened because of a group of people that were interested in doing something like that and started working on it on their own. So for us, when we look at ourselves in the bigger picture, when we see ourselves in the larger picture, then we can have the opportunity to get motivated even that much more. So this is all part of like what motivates you. So if it's family, if it's kids, if it's career, if it's the profession that you're in, maybe you see yourself as something bigger as part of that profession. If you're, a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, you're doing something that adds to this profession and is bigger than you. Or as part of your family, you see yourself as, the provider or the nurturer or the whatever. And as part of that, you see it's something bigger. It's going to live on with you, with your kids. The point being is if we can find a way to see ourselves in a bigger picture as part of something larger than us, that is an easier way to motivate us and to get us to create the outcomes that we want. So 2 thoughts for today that we can continue to learn from how the military does what they do. Number 1, the power of immersion. If you want to really learn something, immerse yourself in it. As I said, I'm crewing a Tony Robbins event next week. He's doing a virtual UPW. It starts on Thursday. If you got nothing to do and you want to do self-improvement with the greatest coach ever on that stuff, you can sign up and you can do it right from your home. But whatever it is that you want to be great at, immerse yourself in it and you will be greater at it. And then see yourself in the bigger picture. When we can see ourselves in the worldview, whatever your worldview is, it's easier to motivate yourself to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish because you're seeing yourself as part of something bigger. When you do that, now you're starting to get to a point where you can have a vision and a purpose and a drive and have the type of thing that people have who really accomplish great things. Have a great Saturday, everybody. Hope it's not too cold out there. Thank you very, very much for watching this morning. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.